Welcome to the Sam and Shyama show this week. We're going to be doing most of the talking. These guys can just take a seat back.
Thank you for kicking the table.
I know, I did that on accident. I recoiled.
I don't even know if you guys know this, but we haven't recorded in a minute. So the fact that the first episode back is not us is a whole other thing.
I was hoping that you would do exactly what he does.
Oh, I don't remember it
There's
super
no
well.
way. There's no way.
It's
You're
like,
hi, welcome back to another episode of the Artenders with Dan.
Mac and Dan. I'm Mac, he's Dan.
Hello. That's you. I'm sorry.
That was good. That's good.
However you would
So,
like. I'm sorry.
as you can tell, we're talking about The Bear today. Because that was obviously introed perfectly.
It's a show created by Christopher Storer, starring Jeremy Allen White, about a wonderful chef at the top of his form, at the top of his class, moving back home to Chicago because his brother recently passed away and now he is taking over his brother's restaurant. It's a show on Hulu, came out in the year of our Lord 2022. It is a wonderful show. I like to... Yeah, go ahead,
It's one
Mac.
of the few shows that I have seen that has actually claimed itself as a post-COVID show. And it acknowledges the fact that it is post-COVID.
That's true.
That it acknowledges that in the world of the
Only
show.
once, but it
True.
does.
Very
they're
passingly.
like, we're selling Coke to...
But I've seen very few shows acknowledge it, which is interesting to me. I just wanted to throw that out there. As well as you mentioned the people that were part of making the show. I also wanted to throw out that it was partially produced by Maddie Matheson, who's in the show.
Yes.
I'm a big fan. Okay. So we have two special guests here, as you can tell, the lovely Shyama and the lovely Sam. We've had both of them on the show before in other capacities. What episodes were you guys on? It was...
Brother Bear.
And Bend It Like Beckham.
The second best movie on that list.
Oh, no. Okay, we're off to a good start. So, the reason that we wanted them here is because, one, they seemed to really enjoy the show and have a lot to say about it, at least whenever they first saw it. How long ago that was. But then also, we like getting them in the same room together because they usually fight. So, let's do it. So, where do we want to start? We want to start with, you made a claim before we started, which was that you think that you like the show more than anyone else on the couch.
Yes.
Okay. And how much would that be?
Quantify it.
Yeah.
I would get... I
sum her up.
probably 103, you know? No,
okay.
I really
More than-
like the show.
Percent?
I mean, no, just a number. Units of liking. I love the show because I venture to say that simply because I assume I like food the most on this couch.
Okay. Yeah.
My life revolves around whenever I go places, I want to go to the like nicest restaurant in that city and try and do like the Michelin star. I love that whole world. I cook all the time, and so that, and I'm fascinated by the restaurant industry as a whole. I would never do it because I value my sanity, but I enjoy learning about and how kitchens work.
Yes.
And all the intricacies of all that. So I think this show in a lot of ways was made for people like me.
Yeah, interesting. So not only is it a good show, but you were watching it from a food porn perspective and a restaurant media perspective.
Yes, except that the food itself is very much not actually that much of a thing.
Well,
on the
exactly
show.
why I would argue that maybe it's not made for it. But no, I totally agree that you probably like it most. Because I have a real problem with the ending. But I think, yeah, like the food is really cool for like 2 episodes. Mm-hmm. And then it like isn't really that anymore.
Like it takes a backseat
Yeah.
in terms of like the plot progression.
Yeah. But what I did enjoy about it was that like most of my jobs have been like in restaurants or in coffee shops, and so the service industry part of it was interesting and fun, particularly in the ticket episode.
Oh yes, absolutely.
The penultimate episode titled Review,
The
Season
Warner.
1, Episode
The Warner,
7.
exactly.
A true one take as well.
Yeah.
Was it actually a
It
true
was
one
a
take?
It was
true
true.
one take.
It was a true one take, absolutely. And
Really?
they publicized that a lot, and there have been a lot of people that have like dissected the episode like frame by frame, and yeah, no, it was no cuts, which it
That's
always is. But
fantastic.
I read the thing, they did it like 6 times. The first 2 times had technical issues, then they did it 4 times, and they were done by noon. And that scene was done.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Nice.
I think I saw something about. I think Jeremy Allen White was on a podcast where he was talking about that they were like, "All right, let's just run this thing and see how it goes." And they ran it, and it was 27 minutes, but it felt like 5. And yeah, and then that was it. That was the end of it.
Okay, so Sam, you 103 as a number. Where are the rest of us at?
Danny,
Here's the thing is that
I was waiting. He was
Sam
getting ready to-
introduced the show to me. We saw the first
Oh.
episode together over a glass of wine, as true lovers do. And I really enjoyed the show. And I was like, okay, I'm going to make the effort to like actually watch this. And then I got Shyama into the show. We watched it together. And after we had seen the show together, then I was like, Mac, we have to watch this show. You have to watch this show. We have to talk about this show. So, like, I do really like the show. I probably don't like it as much as Sam. That's a fair take to say. I will say, like, I haven't watched the show fairly recently because we said we were going to record, like, a century ago, which is okay. It happens.
It's true.
Life does occur to our lives.
You
so
can
that
hear from the quiver in his voice how okay it is.
yeah,
truly fine.
barely okay.
But like I don't think about the show all the time. Like there are other shows that I think about still. Of course, you know, Tale as Old as Time. I still think about The Wire a lot. I do love The Wire, but I don't think about The Bear as often as I did when I first watched it, so it doesn't have as strong of a staying power for my emotional cup, if you will. However, I do enjoy the show. Mac, what were your sort of impressions?
And so the number is
I mean, like 62.
Whoa.
Almost half.
Almost half.
Damn. I really, really enjoyed it. You know what, Danny? I actually thought that you would like it a lot more than that because there seemed to be a lot of like
Anger.
no, there seems to be a lot of like whenever I was watching it, I thought to myself on multiple occasions, "Oh, Danny, that's like a thing that Danny stereotypically likes."
a lot of heart.
A lot of heart.
That's true.
A lot of like
God,
it's
yeah.
seven-
a
But
lot
I
of
will say, like, Danny has, like, a bad habit, or not maybe a bad habit, but, like, a habit of being like, yeah, 62. I really loved it.
right, true. Well, and also like this, he's a sucker for like hyper masculine character goes on like heartfelt journey where he ends up crying. Like whenever like people that aren't supposed to be crying are crying, then he starts crying. Like I see that often, you know. Like the
Brother
hardened
stuff.
Oh, the
family.
fucking brother
Yeah,
stuff.
oh my God.
Just the fact that Jon Bernthal was on the screen ever at all, I think
true.
was
I mean,
probably a big one.
That alone, the second I got to see Jon Bernthal, that added like 10 points.
That's exactly
immediately.
right. Went from 93 to 103. Exactly. Now, for me, I did like it a whole lot, but it was actually because I am not nearly as much of a foodie as Sam, but I would say I'm like halfway there. I watch a lot of cooking videos. I do it a lot, but
Showing
not
off
nearly
his
as
bona
much.
fides of
Not
liking
again.
food.
Not nearly as much.
I
as Sam.
eat every day for survival.
So, it's partially that for me, but for me, it's more from like a execution standpoint. It's just so well made, like top to bottom. There were several times whenever I was just like, wow, that was clean as hell. As I was watching it, so I would give myself a because I'm a hopeless optimist. I'd call myself a 78. I put myself above Danny and below. Yeah, 78. There we go. And you?
Oh man. Okay. I don't know. I think well, because the problem is like I like listening to you say that it's top to bottom really clean. I'm like disagree.
Oh.
It's top to almost the bottom.
Well, but also from a writing perspective, I'm sure.
Okay,
is what
hold
we're
on.
talking about.
Yes.
We need to get into this.
I'm talking about production though.
87. Okay, go.
Wow. No, but let's get into this.
Ooh,
Now, okay.
Interesting.
We're not going to argue. We agree more so than they
Oh
do.
no.
It's fair to say everybody on this couch, we're jam-packed together on this couch.
I'm just going to put my arm around you.
Hey there, we do thoroughly love this show. We like the show. We're all looking forward to season 2 immensely. But Shyama has
Bear, yeah.
qualms. Yes, it's already been confirmed and already been picked up for season 2.
Yeah.
Now, Shyamalan does have qualms with sort of how the show finishes itself off when it comes to, its final episode and wrapping up all the story beats. Shama, could you go ahead and speak on your mind, speak to this,
What
if
are
you
your
will.
qualms?
My qualms are that the emotional arc and the story arc.
Please don't hit the table with your
I'm
foot.
sorry. I feel like okay, sorry.
Welcome to my life. Oh my god. Okay, so go ahead.
Hit the phone. What was I saying? The emotional arc and the plot arc do not resolve together. And that they don't really have anything to do with each other. And that bothers me a whole lot, right? So I would argue that the emotional arc to me, it's messy. It's real messy because it is pretending like it's some kind of healing thing about him and his brother, but his brother isn't in the show.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I would argue that the antagonist really is probably like Sydney.
Okay.
Who is the second in command in
Right.
this chef's kitchen.
Yeah, and you could say that it's Richie. You could say that
I
it's
was
Richie.
about to say it was Richie
You
because I
could
thought
say
that
that it is
Richie was
Richie.
the physical representation of his brother and the healing that needs to be done there.
Okay, yes, but Richie, Sydney coming in is what sets us off.
Okay.
Right? Like, we would be having the same fight over and over again with no growth if Sydney didn't ever come in.
But is it possible for Sydney to be a catalyst without her being the antagonist?
Yeah,
No, because I don't think that you have I don't think that the growth ever happens
see.
because I actually think yes, there's the progress side versus the stuck on the brother side, but I actually think that Carmi starts out emotionally still stuck on his brother, even though he's saying he wants progress for the restaurant.
Right.
Emotionally, he's still stuck on his brother. Right? So yes. So all of this stuff that Sydney is proposing to functionally move the restaurant in the right direction, he's actually not ready to do those things.
So it's not necessarily that your problem is that it is unclear, because it is unclear whether the central conflict that we are following is his with his brother or his with the restaurant. It's more a problem for you that they seem to end at different times and not in a bow.
Well, so it's more than that, because I think it's his conflict with Richie to me can't be the thing that we're tracking, because he's either he's never really that much in conflict with Richie.
He does avoid it. That's
Well,
true.
but I mean they're at the same level of fighting for the whole show. And it's never really at a breaking point. The climax of the show, or this kind of turning point right before the finale, is that Sydney quits.
Yeah,
That's the
true.
plot point. So
That's
I would argue
true.
that it has to be Sydney, right? But then Sydney coming back to the restaurant and making up with him and solving this conflict that the two of them were having has nothing to do with randomly finding money in the tomato box or the tomato cans, which is what wraps up the plot issue.
That is convenient and difficult for me.
Right, but I'm fine with it being convenient and
yeah.
difficult if it also ties up with the emotional arc, which it doesn't, because that has nothing to do with Sydney.
I figured this would be a bulk of the conversation. Sam, go ahead.
Well, so everything that was said, I don't necessarily disagree with. However, them conveniently finding the money was a trend that had been happening in the whole show, which is the moment an emotional breakthrough happens, the coincidence of the restaurant kind of heals itself. When they lose power and all that stuff, it's the moment directly after Carmi and Richie have a moment where they're talking about why he started selling drugs and all that stuff, and they kind of have no, I get it, we understand where we're all coming from, that the power comes back on. I can't think of enough, but I noticed it twice overtly that it was directly after I see you, that the restaurant itself went, okay, I am also healed. And so that was kind of just the third or fourth time that had happened, where when Carmi finally has the breakthrough on his brother, he's like, all right, yeah, I'm gonna make the spaghetti. It's what his brother always did, and the reason that he would never really do it is because it was such his brother's thing. And finally giving in, and that's when he discovers the money, and they can redo the restaurant and make it truly him honoring his brother, making the restaurant good from what he can do.
As opposed to trying to, like, surpass or, like, trying to prove to his brother that he's better than this.
Yeah, because he can't do what his brother did better because he's built an entirely different way. So he has to do it differently. And the moment that he accepts that is when he gets the opportunity to do so.
Yeah.
I'm all for that, but I'm like the only like connection that I can make with the Sydney arc is it does come after he like over text is like, come get your last check, like I was a dick yesterday. Or sorry, did you swear on this podcast? I forgot.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. But I guess I'm like those like I agree with you, and that is really cool, and I did notice that with the power outage. But because that is like the climax of the like the resolution of the thing, I'm like I feel like if we're gonna be like the restaurant is healing itself, when you heal your emotional wounds, like yes, because he's choosing to like not do what his brother did, but it has nothing to do with either of the potential antagonists. Like he's not really solving any of the interpersonal conflict unless you count like this like text message to Sydney.
Yeah, I would also, in thinking of like, to me watching it, there isn't really an antagonist. Kind of what you were saying, where it's more of a catalyst.
Oh no, Shyama's unhappy.
I know. But
breaks Shyama's rules.
Because to me, it's not a man versus man story. It's a man versus environment, and he's showing up and he's being pulled in two directions by Richie, who is the past, and Sydney, who is like his, I guess you call it, present. And so it's not either one of them is the antagonist. It's the fact that they're both kind of trying to drag him down on opposite sides of the hill when he should just like be doing his own thing.
The thing that he is fighting for is not something that he can take from a person. That there's not like one single person standing in the way of him and his thing. It is...
Yeah, because ultimately it's himself who's in the way of him
man versus
doing
self.
anything. Yeah, because as we talked about, it's him trying to get over the death of his brother and all the emotional baggage of his brother, who we do need to discuss is kind of shitty.
Yes.
Because he's like, I want you to do better. You're better than this place is kind of the message that the brother comes from. And the way I'm going to make you do that is I'm not going to talk to you, and I'm never going to let you back in the restaurant.
Yeah.
And I'm going to make you think I hate you. But don't worry. I borrowed $300,000 and put it in tomato sauce for you to find once you make the spaghetti, the recipe for which I left on a note I hid underneath a locker.
That was weird. And unexplained.
Yeah.
It was because that felt such like a weird choice to have a note card with the recipe, right? Or like the hint to open the tomato cans behind a locker on the floor, and it makes you think, did it fall off of something? Did he place it there? Why? And I guess like it speaks to like not understanding Mikey, who was the brother. It speaks to not being able to understand Mikey, because you see throughout the show that he has made decisions when he was alive that just don't make sense. That he's just putting documents all over the place willy-nilly, not caring, that the place is an absolute shithole of not clean at all, of an environment. And then you have this note card sitting behind there, and like it's like works for that character, but it doesn't feel like it works for the story. If that makes sense.
I guess it's like because the rest of the stuff for me, I'm like seemed very tied up in Mikey being an addict, right? Like it seemed that he was like in active addiction for all of that other stuff, but the note cards seemed like random, and so I was like, I don't understand if this is like an addict brain decision. That like you made a weird choice. Like I guess it was like not weird enough to be like, yeah, you made like a weird choice, or like it accidentally happened. I think like the frustration, or like my frustration there, right, is I'm like then like that kind of stuff makes me think that like you want like the conflict to be about healing this relationship with, and not you as in like the people on the couch, but like that the creators want the conflict to be about healing this relationship with his dead brother, but then we get one flashback with his brother, and that to me sucks, because I'm like, I either don't want to meet him at all, or I want to meet him like way more times, because I either Mikey is the antagonist and I want a bunch of or not the antagonist, because we don't have to fight about it. But like, but like either Mikey is the person representing this like other force, and we need that conflict, or he's completely absent, and his absence is what the show is about. To me, that really bugs me. But also, like, yeah, I mean, it does just break rules, so maybe I just don't like it because it's breaking the rules.
But also, I agree with the front of, like, I wish we didn't see Mikey at all. I wish we didn't see Jon Bernthal. I loved that scene a lot, and it was particularly enriching to watch that scene and how much light Mikey was, and how much joy he brought to everyone around him. And then the same story that Mikey is telling, that Richie is telling as well to somebody else, and like this girl that he's on a date on just doesn't get it, and it shows how much Richie is also still living in the shadow of Mikey as well. But with that being said, I would find the show and its overall story to be more potent if we never saw Mikey at all. I'm curious, Mac, on what your take is in regards to that. Like, do you think we should have gotten more Mikey? Do you think we should have gotten zero Mikey at all? Maybe was this the right amount of Mikey?
For me, it wasn't actually as much the amount of Mikey that bothered me, because it was frustrating that it was only one scene, but also like I didn't think too hard about it. I was just like, why? My main thing that annoyed me was like, why now? After all this time? Like,
yeah.
Either earlier or not at all. I was like, why are you going to introduce this character to me that I've already, like, you've already forced me to imagine everything on my own, and you just destroyed everything that I've now made in my head.
And that scene was for Richie. It wasn't even for
that's
Carmy.
It. That's what I was going to say.
It wasn't for the protagonist. It was for a side character. Mind you, a side character who was essentially the protagonist of that particular episode, but not the protagonist of the series.
Yeah. I mean, like I was, and I was like, the way that the rest of the episode is set up with the next scene being Richie telling the same story, I was like, so we're supposed to understand that this is like Richie's memory, and like, yeah, it's probably a thing that Carmy also remembers, but sure, but like that we're supposed to understand that like the one flashback we have is being recounted by
this person that we're not following.
Yeah,
absolutely. That is absolutely frustrating. As well as, can we just acknowledge the fact that I know that it is an uphill battle whenever you're writing this to, like, okay, we need to make this character an asshole, but have him redeemable, like to the point where we're still with him, so we still like are interested whether or not he stays.
Wait, sorry,
that's a lot of characters.
Richie.
Yeah, I mean,
Richie.
well, yeah, specifically Richie, right? But there are a lot of characters in the show that have really bad qualities.
Yeah,
really mean people, but who are, I find, all redeemable.
Sure,
to some affect.
But we introduced them.
Ibrahim, he's my light.
Ibrahim is wonderful all the way through.
We'll get there. We'll get to the easy talk.
I don't know that we're gonna get to Ibrahim.
No, I've got 45 minutes prepared just on Ibrahim.
Oh, good. We'll whip that out if need be. No, but we are introduced to all those characters being told that we are supposed to like them, or we see their good qualities first, and then eventually the bad stuff comes out. We're told to dislike or we're told that Richie's an asshole from the get-go.
Yeah.
And so it is, okay, he's an asshole, and how do we make our way back up the mountain? For me, it was actually, I mean, I was interested in Richie, but I would say the first 5, maybe 6 episodes, even all the like heartfelt moments of like, oh no, but like he has his reasons and everything, I was like, okay, we can love him and still fire him. He can still be a good guy that we hang out with and still get him the fuck out of the restaurant because he's not helping things by any means. Like, I was so confused why they did not fire him so many times. And I know that like I'm supposed to like think that and then come back to like, oh, but he's family. But who fucking cares? I like, there were so many times where it was difficult for me, that specific thing. And it was clear that the writers fucking loved Richie. Like, they gave him every chance. And I think the actor did a really spectacular job with what
Evan Maw's background
was
really fucking
micro. Yes.
Second time he's worked with Jon Bernthal.
Really?
Well, I mean, and like part of what maybe I was like, I did not even realize it was the same guy.
Hold on, to give context for the audience who may not know, so Netflix television show The Punisher starred Jon Bernthal. In the first season, probably like the main side character was a character named Micro, also played by Eben Moss-Backrack, who plays Richie in this show. And as we just discussed, that character, Richie, shares a scene with Mikey, who was played by Jon Bernthal. So yes, the second time that they have worked together. And I had to also point out to Sam, hey, it's the guy from The Punisher. And Sam had no idea. He had watched the entire show and was like shocked because the performances are so different.
Yeah.
And we'll let, history decide which show was better. But I think for now we'll just discuss the bear.
Well, I think I'm actually surprised. I didn't ever have that thought about Richie. Like,
really?
No, I mean, yeah, it was like, he like obviously sucks and he's getting in everybody's way and stuff. But like, it totally made sense to me that like you don't that you don't fire that person, because like, I mean, I feel like that also just is the kind of that, like, I feel like everywhere.
But think about it this way. First of all, like thematically, in terms of images, right? Like Richie represents the past, right? As we discussed earlier.
Absolutely.
Like there's like so much baggage, there is so much history, there is like that family aspect, and that's important to consider, and that's an important thing for Carmy as a character to deal with. Also the fact, just like logistically speaking, everybody in that kitchen, except for Carmy and except for Sydney, especially not Sydney, loves Richie.
That's what I was about to say.
Loves Richie. You fire Richie, you lose that kitchen.
Right.
So that kind of
I wish I would have seen that.
What the truth about Richie and why they can't fire him, which I picked up on when I watched it the whole season yesterday.
Is because he's gonna kill himself if they fire him?
No, though possibly. But he's the front of house guy. He's the guy behind the counter when people walk in. He's the face.
He's the community knows
Exactly.
the restaurant
knows
as Richie.
He's the guy who knows the mob boss who hangs out on the sidewalk. But all
then
that
Sydney does it.
Which is why then when Sydney can handle it, he's like, what is my role
What's my
here?
purpose?
Right.
Yeah, and like if someone else can do that, then like, yeah, I don't have a place.
Yeah.
So I do think the show could have done a better job of showing what he fucking did all day.
Yeah.
Like,
But I will say, like,
did with the
pound for
Mafia.
what I will say though, pound for pound, like they did a good job of like constructing a character that had to stay in the room. You know what I'm saying? That had all of those abhorrent qualities, but still had to be there and was like allowed to still be there. Because like, even though it begged the question, like, why is he still there? You could give reasons as to why he's still there. And so then it further, like, it kept the story moving, and like also fundamentally a very interesting character, and it worked so well for everyone else.
Absolutely. I just wish there would have been a moment where firing him was even uttered. Like that someone
Like
even
considered?
mentioned it.
Yeah.
And then the kitchen went fucking apeshit.
or like Sydney should have suggested it to
Exactly.
to Carmen.
Exactly.
Of just
Because
be
why
like,
wouldn't she?
Like,
She has no connection to him.
exactly, and like he berates me every day. Like, why are you allowing?
Yeah.
Like, and that could be
And
more
is
of
it,
a
like,
conflict
mean,
for Sydney
sexist,
and Carmen.
Totally harassing.
Homophobic?
Absolutely.
Awful.
And selling coke out of the back of the restaurant.
Also,
Absolutely he is.
And yeah, I mean,
But for
I guess
good
you're
reason.
right.
they wouldn't have gotten through COVID without
Exactly
selling
right.
coke.
I guess you
exactly
are right
right.
that it is weird that they had the whole like, how dare you sell coke out of the back of the restaurant conversation, and firing him did not ever come up.
I'm telling, like, there were so many moments where I was like, okay, we need a like
Well, he
very
did tell
clear
him to
reason.
get out.
But not
mind
for
you-
good.
Yeah.
Like that
I
just
will-
seems like something they say to each other like on the daily, you know?
Give us the
do
last
also-
thing and then we gotta go to
okay.
break.
Okay, I just want to also point out, they made a big deal, a kind of overarching thing with Sydney was that she wanted to start doing to-go orders.
Yes.
And
Modernize.
Yeah, and I had the thought, like, what did a majority of restaurants do to make it through COVID?
That.
Start doing to-go orders. So I find it funny that they went like, man, we can't have people in the business anymore. How are we going to like make enough money to get through this? And they thought of first selling Coke and not simply buying packaging.
Right.
But Mikey was an addict. Like
Okay, one sec.
All
So
right.
We'll
He
get
would
back
want
to it.
Keep the drugs.
Yeah, but he's not dumb.
We'll get back
Like-
to it after a break. We'll be back.
This episode of the Artenders brought to you by dog shit from the makers of cat shit.
Hey, we're back. Hey, how you doing?
We've been back, Danny. What are
yeah,
you talking about?
well. Anyway, so I want to actually talk about Sydney as a character, her performance by Ayo Edebiri. Did I pronounce that right? Oh, thank God I did. Okay. Woo! All right, but anyways.
Do you have the IPA
You do
on
not
your...
have it.
No, I don't have the
phonetically written
IPA,
here.
but I was making sure. I was
Oh,
like, maybe I
like-
mixed up the B and the
I
D
see,
in the
I see.
last name. Point is, she is my gold medal. She is my favorite
Mm.
performance in this show. And it's the most, of course, first of all, she is my favorite performance in the show because of how I found her to be in the moment in every scene
Yeah.
and responding and listening really well to whatever her scene partner was giving her, right? As well as, like, consistently playing with language and always trying to throw something new or something interesting or something very, very different to her scene partner in order to elicit a certain reaction or to get him to do something. And to me, it feels like such a wonderful thing to watch an actor do, so I find it to be an absolute treat whenever it does unfold. And I do, therefore, and of course, because I'm an actor apologist, I also do find Sydney to be one of my favorite characters throughout the entire show, which makes it all the more interesting when Sydney is really, really mean to Tina at the end, which is
Yeah.
kind of not really, but kind of fair because Tina was very mean to her at the beginning, and then also she accidentally stabs Richie in the butt. So,
She does stab Richie, doesn't she?
but
Accidental up for debate.
Well,
It's
whoa,
an
okay.
accidental stabbing.
You know, she was, turning a corner with the knife out. Like, that was insane. So, but I do really, really enjoy Sydney as a character. So, Shyama, I want to get your thoughts because you did also find Sydney to be the antagonist of this show. So, I'm also curious as to how you found her character to drive the plot forward for Carmi and even for Richie as well, because I also found her and Richie's scenes, even though they were absolutely at each other's neck the entire show, some of my favorite scenes as
Yeah.
well. So I just want to get your general impressions, see, whatever you can surmise, if you will.
To jump in really quick before you do that, fun fact, I believe, if I remember correctly, Sydney's actress, I'm not going to try and pronounce her name, I didn't study that, is a comedy writer.
She is a comedian.
I
yeah.
also
Which
found,
would show.
I had watched her stand-up clips years ago, and didn't realize it was the same person. So are you actually asking about the character, or about the actor?
What
Or,
I was
the
doing was I
performance?
was trying to give you a bunch of different attacking points to
I see.
choose
Okay.
from.
Well,
But
I
in
mean,
giving too many.
Here's the thing. Here's the
choose
thing. I
one
agree
adventure.
with you.
Yeah.
I agree with you that it she was fantastic. I guess I mean, and I'm less of an actor apologist than you are, but I also think that she has a lot of the same tricks that
Yeah.
And
yeah,
so-
yeah. I was about to say.
and so
Is
that
this why I like her performance so much?
I'm but when you were like, she was really using the language, I was like, was she using the language, or did she not know what she was doing and leaned into the words? Because that, I mean, which that may not be what she was doing, but that is what I read into it, because that's what I do. If I don't really know what to do with the line, I'm like, gonna really lean into the operatives here and
do-
be
do
like,
you do that
I
consciously?
did. Yes, I'm like, I did the text work. Do you hear my text work?
Yeah. We all know the homework. The homework trick, right?
We're all actors
And so
here.
and I also think she was excellent. She was excellent until the stakes were past a certain point. Once the stakes were past a certain point, it seemed like she struggled. And so
Interesting.
in that one shot,
The penultimate episode.
yes,
Yeah.
in that episode, once it got to the end where she was going off on Tina, and where she was like, "No, I quit." Like, I it felt like those were a bit of a struggle. The thing is, she was doing all of the things that you do to get there. So if I were directing that actor, I'd be like stop trying so hard. You're there. We've done this 27-minute scene. You're gonna be there. You're fine.
Right.
Yeah.
She's there. And so it just seemed like we were still trying really hard once we got there. And I was like, you've been trying really hard for 27 minutes. You don't have to try anymore.
She reminded me of a really, really good young actor. In that, she seemed a little insecure in certain moments, but she had everything there. Absolutely. There was oh man, there was a level of just like body freedom that I very, very rarely see. Specifically, like, so like even whenever actors are performing in like a specific genre, right? There's pitfalls in each genre because there's like a look of that thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like people will try to look like a specific whatever, right? And so it's interesting to see how like with the rise of like stillness and naturalism and making things as small as possible, it's interesting to see what that like standard looks like. And it makes me happy whenever someone like her still feels natural, not like realism, but naturalism. Like it is like the pace at which a person would actually do it in the real fucking world, and just as weird as people actually are.
I think, yeah, because I think like so often like we get in front of the camera and I'm like, oh, people don't do this with their hands, and I'm like, yes, I do. Like I do this with my hands.
Yes.
I'm doing it right now.
But in like a subconscious kind of way that I never questioned it.
It was really, she seemed really grounded.
Yeah, immensely.
And so like all of that to say, like I absolutely agree with you. I did really adore her performance. I accept like those two moments, like when she was at the top of her emotional.
And it's tricky because like that is one of the best episodes of television I've ever seen in my life. Perhaps the best episode of television I've ever seen. And so like considering how much of a near immaculate episode that is, like considering like that is like the criticism of it as well, is such a small little pebble in an entire ocean. So and actually, let's transition into that episode right there. Sam, I want to get your take on that. So we did mention that it was a full-on oneer, a true actual oneer, meaning that there wasn't any cuts. I thought there was, because it looked like there definitely were a few moments where they could have cut when they were like swiping by like a column or anything like that. And that is an absolute masterclass of a oneer. And I will say, though, that 27 minutes feels like an entire hour right there. But I want to get your first reaction from watching that episode and what you felt about it, because it was definitely what made the show for me from great to absolutely fan-freaking-tastic. So what were your...
And I think a showcase of how amazing that scene was is I didn't realize it was a oneer until halfway through it.
Yes.
Which is how the good ones go. Before, really quick, that I get into that, speaking on the oneer and kind of what you were just talking about with her being very grounded, one thing that makes the oneer so great, and I think that made a lot of earlier scenes so great, is it almost being a piece of theater, because it's in one take, doing like that. There were a lot of very long, unbroken shots that they would just sit on for a while. The big one is after the hardware store, where Richie and Sydney are just sitting in the car and he's on the phone with his ex-wife.
You're right.
Like, that just sits there, and it's like 3 minutes long or something, and there isn't a single cut in it. So it's like, it's almost, we were building to the oneer the whole time with longer and longer or different moments of being grounded in that way. So I really liked the oneer. I think it was shot super well. I read a thing yesterday while rewatching it, because I looked up, like, is it a true oneer, to figure out how they did it. And apparently it starts on a dolly that they then in camera remove it from the dolly, that gets removed, and then there's also one wall on set, I think, that they are moving in and out, as well as there's like 150 light cues that happen in it to make everything look natural. So it's super insane that happened. Now, from a story perspective, the reason I really like that, and why I think it is possibly one of the greatest episodes of television, is every like B arc culminates in that episode and is the source of why everything goes awry.
You're
like,
so right.
Marcus with the donut and him deciding to elevate, and him being an absolute complete fucking idiot and not just cutting a cake and instead walking up when his boss has been yelling for 20 minutes and he goes like, "Look, boss, I made a donut." But Sydney, like, finally getting to elevate, they're finally doing her ideas of doing to go. What's her name? What's the
Tina?
Tina Tina, who went from like, I do everything my way, but learns that this place is a place where you can grow and you can learn. And so she brings her son there
yep.
because she views it as a place where you can grow. And so all of that coming together and all of that being the perfect catalyst for absolute chaos when everything happening is actually positive, but it all happening at once on that day was just the worst thing that could happen, I think is what makes that episode so fun and entertaining.
You were going to say something?
Oh no, just that the Marcus storyline really
got to.
Yeah, and they were building that like from 2 episodes of him routinely like being in this donut and being like, hey, can we do a cake? And he's just like, yeah, 1 minute. And they're like, but that's your job. We took away bread for you to make these cakes.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and I think also like, I mean, like, and this isn't the best. The Oneer is obviously the best episode, right? But a couple episodes before, when the power goes out and they all like move outside because Marcus was behind and he like turned the mixer on too high and it blew a fuse or whatever, and he's like hiding and he has this conversation with Carmi at the end of the episode, is maybe my favorite moment of the whole series, even though it's not like the most like dramatically interesting bit, but this like it's one of those moments that's like super sentimental but feels earned. Well, the sentiment feels really earned.
Absolutely, and it also is the very first moment that Carmi goes from little brother to big brother.
Yeah. Where like where Marcus is like, it's my fault, I'm so sorry, I'll never do it again, and Carmi's like, yeah, you will, but like not because
I'm a sucker for that scene
me
every
too.
time.
Yeah.
It's the most cliche thing that happened in the series. And I love it every time it happens.
He's like, not because you're you, just because it happens. And I was like, oh.
If only all the adults in my life had that understanding.
Marcus at the end of the episode using the knife to do his date super, like, I mean, all of that. Anyway, sorry, I know we were talking about the Oneer. I just wanted to...
No, that's okay.
Well, also on the Oneer, I want to give a shout out or my gold medal to both of the cinematographers that worked in the show, but specifically the one that worked on the bulk of the episodes, Andrew Wade and Adam Newport-Berra. It was... The cinematography, I think, was, for me, what took this show from a show that was like a well done but like just mundane story that like this could have been produced by any network and it could have looked any sort of way, but the fact that it looked like this and that it was told in this way was I think it was the anxiety that it gave me moment to moment that kept me watching and that made me so invested, you know. And I think that was largely obviously the actors were fantastic, director, everything, but specifically the way that it was shot was so anxiety-inducing. Yes, the Oneer absolutely was smart, not just because it was a well-done Oneer, but the fact that it was done because it was good for the story.
Yes.
Like that was exactly what they should have done in that in that episode. You were talking about the fucking scene with Carmi and Sydney in the car, right? Whenever he's like on the phone with his wife, but the fact that they
Richie, that's a fine.
Oh no, that's a point.
Man, that's a penalty point right there.
Shit.
I think, Mac, that puts you at 5. I'm at 4 currently.
What is this?
This is the penalty point system, Sam. So after every 10 episodes, we chalk them up, and whoever has more points has to wear a costume.
Of the other's choosing.
Yeah.
So I've worn a Ghostbusters costume, and he has worn.
I've worn a pirate costume.
I definitely know that. I watched the show.
Actually, right. No, sorry. So what I was saying, that scene with Richie and Sydney in the phone with the call. The fact that it was one take the entire scene, but that they kept Sydney in the frame for the entire call.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that the entire time you weren't thinking about the scene that was happening with Richie, you were thinking about Sydney's perception of the scene that was happening with Richie. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I mean,
but it's all of that. It's all of that at once. Not just like Richie, not
Absolutely.
just Sydney. It's also like what's happening between them.
Absolutely.
It's the scene between them that maintains that like strength because, like you said, she's still in that frame.
I mean,
the fact that the whole restaurant felt more cramped because it was almost exclusively close-ups whenever they were in the restaurant, and then whenever they weren't in the restaurant, they specifically did as little close-ups as possible so that you could feel the difference between being cramped and spread.
They would also, in the restaurant, I noticed when watching it again, they had so many foreground elements. Like
So
out of
many.
like they put the camera in a spice rack and
Right.
shoot out of it just to make everything. It's like you're barely seeing what's going on. It's so cramped in here.
As well as I'm so sorry.
No.
So sorry. The shaky cam versus stillness, and like the very, very intentional qualities of both of those. Again, we could list a million examples. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no. I think like in the same vein, right? I'm like that moment to moment, like scene to scene, and even episode to episode, all of the elements are so particular about telling a specific story, which is why it pisses me off that like as a whole it doesn't wrap up that way.
Yeah.
It's I think why it's so like unsatisfying, because moment to moment like those elements are. I think like you had pointed out when we were watching with the Wonder, you were like the phone didn't stop ringing the whole time. That sound was in the background the whole time, and I was like, yeah, like if you had drawn my blood, the cortisol levels would have been high.
There's something so
hearing the printer, I was
stressful about
like
that.
I was like having Starbucks flashbacks. Like it was like because it was all of it was crafted so well.
It's the sound design too, right?
Yeah.
It's particularly the sound design of that episode, but also every episode as well. Of course, that episode is like the masterclass of it all, but then you still have a lot of that sort of the on like the guitar like from a song, I don't know, but like it's the usage of this sort of background ambiance that's being added to every scene, as well as the soundtrack being just wonderful, and it's like really well chosen tracks to finish off each episode as well, and to start some episodes as well. I think there is a lot to be looked at when it comes to the overall soundtrack and sound design of this show, especially in that episode. And I also want to speak to how, culminating it all, the erratic pacing of the show. I've never felt that the pacing was ever slow for the show in terms of like how the flow of how scenes were going, right? But then you, Sam, mentioned like that very still shot of Richie on the phone for 3 minutes, and I remember that was like, right, that did happen. And so what was nice is how the show knew exactly when to like slow it down for a particular moment. And it was just, there was such a pulse that was kept the entire time of when to influence the pacing and the flow of scenes, that the direction of such was just really, really well done.
There are very few times whenever I ever even noticed lighting design, but like I definitely did on multiple occasions in this instance. That there was like, this show was so overcast and like gray and blue. They were practically fucking Smurfs. They were so blue the entire time that whenever they find the money at the end, and there are finally warm colors, and you can like see the color in Carmi's face, and just all that. Like I could like feel myself getting emotional, not even for like a story reason, but just simply because like they were pulling all the tricks that work. You know what I mean? It was just like again, it was just well executed across the board. And also the other thing that I wanted to make sure to notice was that oftentimes whenever you have pieces that are like very dedicated to a specific location, you can tell that they feel a responsibility to represent that location, and they like overwhelm you with like shots of the city. How many times I've seen like New York based movies, and like the B-roll or like cuts in between scenes have nothing to do with the story. It's just like drone shots of the fucking city is so many. That's
That did happen in the penultimate episode, though, when
But
they were playing
barely.
the song by Sufjan Stevens, the Shong.
I just think it was
also,
really
though, that was like that was like a chosen moment, because that was I remember we were watching that because we were
And there was like opening credits.
We
I'm
were
pretty
like,
sure, too.
opening credits. Shit must go down at the end of this episode because they're doing opening credits.
so that they can just like
Like I remember being like, did they usually do opening credits?
No, I don't think so at all.
Yeah,
and then
I clocked that they were Game of Thronesing it in
Yeah,
that one, where it's like,
and
oh,
so-
penultimate episode is where everything goes down.
Yeah.
Like,
And so then because they were showing me the shots of the city in that one, I was like, okay.
Right.
All
And
right.
it felt for a purpose, absolutely. But also, what's funny though is the fact that they did not lean too hard into Chicago, the city. I felt like it was a really fucking good representation of Chicago. Like, from what I know, and from like which is not a whole lot, obviously, but specifically like from my sister-in-law, because she's also watched the show and she lived in Chicago for quite some time, about 5 or 6 years, and just that like it feels super Chicago.
Well, and it's
They
also
do a good job.
it's also important to like show that and what's really well done once again is that like, but this is all like these characters, this is their world, right? And so like it is truly their microcosm.
So why would you show downtown Chicago whenever they're never going to see that?
Right.
Their day-to-day is just this.
Right.
Yeah. We also haven't mentioned nearly anything about Jeremy Allen White and how not. The guy fucking knocks it out of the park. I guess that's it.
Yeah.
I guess that's all we're going to say.
Yeah,
Okay, cool.
What can you say?
He's just good.
He's so good.
Yeah.
Very good. Good for
He's
you.
he's the working man Timothy Chalamet.
Oh my god, you're so right.
Similarly sexy.
Questioning from Shyama, not for me. I'm 100% in. You're
I
absolutely
think here's
right.
the big problem.
Well,
Are
I was gonna
you
say
sexually
he reminds
attractive?
me of you.
Who's you?
You, Danny.
Do you think Jeremy Allen White reminds you of him?
A little bit.
Nice.
Not the way he
Yeah!
looks. The way
Good
he
for
acts.
you.
Hell yeah!
Sure,
Yeah.
Big day for me.
Like, not.
You're working man Timothy Chalamet.
Hey! Transitive property. How about that?
Well, what is your sexual attraction to both Timothy Chalamet and Jeremy Allen White? Because I think that has a lot to do with it.
Yeah.
Because like we look at Timothy
Is-
Chalamet as like the teen heartthrob.
Mm-hmm.
Timothy
Is
Chalamet.
anybody
Well, I don't want to
here
degrade.
sexually attracted to either of those men? Because
Well, I
otherwise
Timothy.
we should just move on.
Not Timothy, but Jeremy Allen White. I
He
don't
can
know.
swoon me. Yeah, I think.
Jeremy
like,
Allen White could get me.
yeah. Like if we had a dinner together.
That
And
he
like
cooked.
he was like saying, and he was like saying all the right things. Yeah, I think I could. I think like Timothy Chalamet is too much of like a shiny object to me. I'm like, it's just like not really. This ain't it, chief. You know?
It would never feel real. with
Yeah,
Timothy.
yeah. But Jeremy Allen White, I'm like, there could be something here. I could see a future with
This is going to be
us.
the clip. After everything we've just said, this is going to be the clip that we get.
Yeah.
Real quick, to gush on Jeremy Allen White and just the whole cast. If you guys didn't know, there were no hand doubles in the show as well. All the like close-up
that's
knife work
impressive.
stuff, like there are interviews where Jeremy Allen White talked about like he plated at a Michelin star restaurant to prepare.
That's stressful.
for the
Wasn't
show.
he on the Today Show?
It might have been.
I would be
Yeah.
so pissed if I was working at the Michelin star restaurant and like an
Just
actor
like, this
came
actor-
in to be
I know.
like,
Well,
It's gonna make tips
Yeah.
awful for that this night. Thank you for nothing.
however, at like Michelin star restaurants, the expertise and the execution really comes in the planning and process making,
Yeah.
more so than it does the moment to moment thing. So yes, it's very impressive they did that. I feel confident that give me a day, I can plate at a Michelin star level.
All right,
I
yeah.
don't actually think
Sam,
that
Quote
for the
him, write it
record,
down.
has also said that he believes he can plan a wedding.
I absolutely do, and I absolutely could. But
I don't know about weddings, but I understand what you mean.
But I legitimately think that
I
like,
do. I understand.
because you're not making a moment-to-moment decision
Yeah, no.
when plating. You have this dish always looks this way.
just
I put
steps.
this here. I
It's
put
just
this
steps,
here. I
yeah.
do this sauce.
Absolutely.
It goes out.
It's the same as plating a dish at. Don't come on me too fast. At Chili's, it's like who cares? Like it's just putting the ingredients together. It's just the fact that they bought super high quality ingredients and it's been
and
conceptualized.
they care
in this way.
way more about where each one goes on the plate.
Obviously, yes.
But you
absolutely.
are right.
But
now, if
you just
he,
do what they tell you to do.
Yeah. Now him, which I bet he also was at one point, like on the line, like he's grilling, he's sautéing the vegetables to go in the soup, like that. That takes a level of just like knowledge and repetition that takes time to acquire.
Yeah, that like you're teaching your body. It's not just your mind, right? Like muscularly, like yeah, just understanding, when to move, how to move, and not have to think about every little step.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Just a poll for the room. Did Joel McHale showing up make you laugh or not?
Yes.
It definitely made me laugh, but then I thought he did well.
So Joel McHale, for those of you who don't know or don't remember, Joel McHale was in a flashback where Carmi was plating at a Michelin star restaurant. No, he was like leading the kitchen, I believe. And Joel McHale was like his boss. I don't know what the proper term is, but was talking shit in his ear the entire time and was basically just being the meanest person ever. And that was Joel McHale, the star from Community.
Yeah.
Because I thought he did a really good job, but it
Yeah.
was maybe one of the only times where I was like,
Taken out of it.
And I feel bad because I'm like, it's not his fault that he's Joel McHale.
I know. He really did do such a good job, but he walked on screen and I didn't go, "Oh, the chef." I went, "Oh, Joel McHale."
Exactly.
Like,
And then he didn't make a joke, and I was like, "Ee."
Because I kept waiting for it to be a joke. Maybe that was the thing, is that I wanted to laugh at it, and then it was
never gave you a chance.
maybe they did it on purpose. They were like, I want to laugh at it, and then he says the most horrible things I could
Part of the
possibly
stress.
think.
Yeah, the same thing happened in.
That's
one
2
of
minute
the-
warning. 2 minute warning.
2 minute
Well,
warning.
this is a good time for me to pivot. The last time I saw Joel McHale in anything was the second Psych movie when he played Lasseter's dad.
They made a second one.
They made a third.
Anyways, the
There we go.
the bear is really fantastic. It's definitely worth a watch. I do want to leave a question for everybody really fast. Would you, Sam, put ketchup on a hot dog?
Yes, because there's rarely an occasion where I will have just one hot dog, and I'll do something different with each.
Shama.
Yes.
That was the most relatable answer. Yes, absolutely, because I'm gonna get more than one.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna switch it up.
And also, really quick, I can speak on this heavily because on Halloween, we sat on our driveway with our grill and made hot dogs, and I had 3. And I did a different thing on each one.
Absolutely. Here's a real question. Does anyone actually use relish? I see it out all the time, and I never see anyone use it. Interesting. Okay.
I do.
Figured. Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much.